12 mysterious discoveries in Alaska. Number 12. Orange slime. Alaska is a beautiful state with much fresh wilderness to explore that's completely untouched by man. The beauty is unbelievable in some places, but here in this small fishing village, we can see a slimy orange goo invading their coastlines that must be frightening. Eskimos inhabited this land long before it ever became part of the US, and they had never seen anything like this. The goo only lasted for a few days, but many were shocked and worried about long-term consequences. At first glance, they believed that the material was actually made up of millions of microscopic eggs, but they believe it could have been some from toxic fungus spores after all. Here in this photo, you see the bizarre, mysterious substance wash up on the sand of the remote fishing village. Number 11. King Bear Skull. Alaska is home to so much wildlife that there may still be species of animals living in the US's largest state that we might not know about. The Inuit tribes had legends of a giant bear, commonly referred to as the king bear. They believed it could have been a subspecies of polar bear that was much larger and existed around 1,300 years ago. Archaeologists came across a giant polar bear skull on a northern Alaskan beach in 2014, and they believe that it may be evidence that this creature of legends truly existed. The skull measures 16 inches long, and it's much more elongated than bears of modern times, as you can tell from this photo, and you might imagine that it was a scary beast. Scientists don't know exactly how big the bear would have been, but some estimate 12 feet tall.
Hey Mitchell, thanks for leaving us this comment. We didn't know about that haunted place being turned into a hotel. Seems like a spooky place to spend the night.
Number 10. Giant Ragfish. Fishing is a common method of gaining an income in Alaska, and they're certainly known for catching some massive fish. The coasts of Alaska are known for their salmon, crabs, and halibut, but in January of 2016, this absolutely massive ragfish that measured 65 inches were caught by fishermen. They were certainly surprised when they discovered it washed up ashore. These have only been spotted 2 other times in the past 40 years, including the one we see here in this photo. It was spotted at the Glacier Bay National Park, which protects up to 523,000 acres of pristine land. The ragfish are normally found deep underwater, and they primarily eat jellyfish, octopuses, and squid. They can grow up to 7 feet long in some cases. Number 9. New species of whale. A mysterious unknown species of whale washed up along the shore of an Alaskan island in 2014. Scientists were completely stumped when they came across the body, and they believe it's an entirely different species of whale. Here in this photo, we see an illustration of what the rare new species actually looks like, and it appears to have a black beak, almost like a dolphin, but a different color. There's another species of whale that looks similar to this one known as the Baird's beaked whale, but this one is about 2/3 its size. Here we see a Twitter post from Kristen Westall, clearly excited about the mysterious discovery in Alaska. The skeleton of the whale now hangs at a museum in the town of Unalaska, Alaska. Number 8. Active volcanoes. Alaska is truly the last unexplored state in the United States, and scientists are still finding new things about this massive state that's about the size of the country of Venezuela. Located along the Ring of Fire, it's also a hotspot for volcanoes, and in 2013, scientists managed to find 12 mini active volcanoes in Alaska's panhandle. These are relatively small in comparison to Alaska's stratovolcano known as Pavlov that we see in this photo. Here we see the thermal imagery of the recently discovered volcanoes, most of which are underwater. Traces of volcanic activity can be seen throughout the state, but especially along the coastline. The new Eddystone rock we see here is evidence of how the volcanoes here, past and present, can shape the geographic landscape of this state. Number 7. North America's first inhabitants. Scientific evidence suggests that at one point, the Bering Strait, located between Alaska and Russia, was frozen over, essentially connecting Asia and North America about 20,000 years ago. Migrating nomadic tribes crossed over this land bridge and were possibly the first to settle this continent. Eventually, when the Ice Age was over, the water melted, leaving us the barrier between Russia and Alaska. In November of 2014, archaeologists believe they came across a tomb of North America's oldest settlers known as Paleo-Indians. This 11,500-year-old grave contains the remains of 3 infants at the Upper Sun River Archaeological Site in central Alaska. The tools were most likely used as spears or knives. The infant mortality rate was certainly increased at this time due to the harsh conditions during the Ice Age. Number 6. Grolar Bear Sightings. So what do you get when you cross a polar bear and a grizzly bear? a Grolar Bear, or some people like to call them pizzly bears. Whichever name you choose to go with, these hybrids have been spotted roaming the wilderness in small villages in Alaska, and they could become more of a common sight to behold. Polar bears appear to be losing food sources in the Arctic Circle and must head south in search of food or for mating. Residents of the isolated town of Barrow, Alaska, all the way up north, claim that these two species have been mating, and they give off a beautiful golden brown appearance like we see here. It seems to be evidence of a species having to adapt to their environments, and these hybrids take hundreds of years to develop. Number 5. Atka Island Abandoned Plane. Due to the sheer size of Alaska, driving around the streets to reach some destinations is basically impossible. Using airplanes is more commonly used to deliver supplies in small towns despite the harsh weather, but this one we see here isn't a cargo plane. In fact, it's a consolidated B-24 Liberator that was used as a heavy bomber in every branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. It was often used in campaigns against the Japanese and also in anti-submarine operations. This abandoned B-24 is found on the Aleutian island of Atka, and it was forced to crash land in 1942. It was on a weather reconnaissance mission, but the weather was the one keeping it from reaching a designated runway. The pilot managed to escape only with a broken collarbone, and the site has been managed to keep the plane preserved as a reminder of its service in World War II. Number 4. The Cruise-Off Island Discoveries. Alaska is certainly home to some brutal winters, and it almost seems to be the last place you want to be stranded unless you're an experienced survivor. A sailing ship known as the Neva was famous for completing Russia's first circumnavigation of the world between 1803 and 1807. 4 years later, when the ship was out at sea again, a fierce storm struck off the coast of Alaska, causing the ship to sink. Only 28 of the 47 crew members were able to make it to land, but they would have to survive on a remote Alaskan island. Artifacts from the survivors show that they managed to craft tools from things such as nails to make fishing hooks. Other things you see in this photo, such as musket balls, sheet copper, axe heads, and spikes, were discovered on the Cruise-Off Island. No skeletons were found, suggesting that they survived long enough to make it off the island. Number 3. Frozen Moose Discovery. Normally when you think of Alaska, two things usually pop up in your head: ice and moose. A teacher on a hike in northwestern Alaska made a mysterious discovery in November of 2016 when he saw a pair of moose antlers popping up from the ground. They found themselves a moose popsicle that was buried under 8 inches of ice in some parts. But wait, there's more. They found another moose deeper under the ice with its antlers clashing against the other moose. They said that their hypothesis was that the moose were getting into a fight, they stumbled into the freezing lake and then drowned. You can tell from these photos that it would be a pretty shocking discovery. Number 2. A friendly black bear. For many of you who live close to nature, you might be a little bit more accustomed to seeing a sight like this. Bears can be seen as a scary nuisance in Alaska, but this one is just unbearably adorable. Before this particular bear found playing around in a backyard in Alaska, you might find it a tad mysterious, but amazing at the same time. It's seen playing around with an inflatable toy, and it even goes over to a swing set. Looks like this bear is just looking for a friend. And number 1. Eskimo Bronze. Possibly the most mysterious artifact found in Alaska dates back to 1400 years ago. It's a bronze buckle found at Cape Espenberg that appears to have made its way there all the way from China. This is well before the presence of the Bering Strait land bridge. Could the natives in this area have possibly made contact with the Chinese? It appeared to have been older than the house that they were originally excavating by at least a few hundred years, and metal crafting was really never a part of Eskimo culture. Some believe that it's likely that the ancient artifact was dropped by a Russian explorer or a whaler. But if that's not the case, it could be evidence of an advanced trade route between Asia and Alaska during the Bronze Age.